Hey, this is Warren Redlick. This story was in the news the other day. Tesla, 1% to blame for teen driver's Ferry crash. This is media trying to make Tesla look somehow responsible for a crash where a teenager was driving 116 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. Lawyers are creative. Lawyers will put anything in front of a jury if they think they can get something out of it. So they put this story to a jury, and 1% is an indication the jury thought that Tesla wasn't responsible at all, and they just threw 1% on him for the heck of it. But notice the headline: Tesla just 1% to blame for teen driver's Ferry crash, as if the jury should have found Tesla more responsible. And if you read that down here below, a Florida jury found electric car maker Tesla negligent for disabling a speed limiter on her vehicle. You know, the jury, any lawyer knows 1%, okay, the jury was just throwing the bone to the plaintiffs. They were trying to give the family something. 1% means 0%. They knew Tesla wasn't really responsible. But let's get into this. Are you ready? Let's go. Go. I am yet again wearing the Be Less Wrong shirt because I recorded 2 videos in one day. Be Less Wrong shirt, please check it out at elonbits.com. We're always wrong. We need to be less wrong. So let's get into the article. A jury has found Tesla just 1% negligent. Didn't they find him 1% negligent? What they mean is they found Tesla negligent when they apportioned the liability, decided who's responsible for what share of the accident. They assigned 90% on the driver, 9% on his father, and just 1% on Tesla. Just 1% on Tesla. Adds up to 100%. You can see here that the NTSB determined that the deceased driver was driving 116 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and the most likely cause of the crash was as a result of his excessive speed. I'm not sure why the father was apportioned blame. We don't really have the full story here. I mean, fundamentally, they knew the kid drove too fast, and they still let him drive the car. I mean, look, if you have a kid, and they not only let him drive a car, they let him drive a car that's a very fast car. Now, Teslas are very safe cars, but they're very fast. And if you drive 116 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, you crash into something, then bad things happen. You know, any other car crashes 116 miles an hour, the people inside are probably going to die too. Now, you notice here, it's the first known case involving a Tesla crash that's gone to trial, said Michael Brooks, acting executive director at the Center for Auto Safety. I don't know who this Michael Brooks is. I don't know why the Center for Auto Safety deserves to be quoted in the story. What does this have to do with anything? I have no idea. But let's go deeper. James Riley, the father, claimed the crash was entirely survivable, and they tried to blame the battery pack, and the judge dismissed the lawsuit's claim that Tesla's batteries were defective and that they burnt into an uncontrollable fatal fire on impact. We don't know the underlying story. What was the evidence in front of the judge that led him to say, I'm not going to let that claim go forward? I think the practical reality is you crash a car at 116 miles an hour, unless you're wearing a helmet, you got a roll cage, and even then, there's a really good chance you're going to die. Don't drive 116 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. There's a claim that Tesla removed a speed limiter without his permission. It's unclear what exactly happened here. They were at the Tesla Dania Beach dealership or service center, and maybe the teen asked the workers to restore the car to normal operating mode. How were they supposed to know they weren't supposed to do that? If you think your kid is that reckless that you need to impose a speed limiter on the car, take the car away. If your kid is behaving that badly, don't let him drive a car. Stop looking to blame other people for the fact that your kid proved Darwin's theory of evolution and you made a choice. You shouldn't have let him have the car. What'd you let him have a car for? And I'm sure they feel awful about this, but if your kid has a history of, they were aware of his history of speeding and reckless driving. The company argued that the parents were negligent allowing him to drive the vehicle. That's kind of an interesting case. To me, look, the kid's responsible for the accident. He was the driver. Trying to blame other people for it is nonsense. But it is what it is. I think there's a chance. I don't think Tesla's likely to appeal this, and I'll explain why in a minute. It's possible they'll make a post-trial motion to ask the judge to dismiss the case against them. We'll see what happens there. But it's probably not worth their cost to appeal it if it goes past that. And then they throw in Brooks at the Center for Auto Safety said other lawsuits are pending against Tesla involving the vehicle's autopilot and full self-driving systems. What relevance does that have to this story? The kid wasn't an autopilot. He was driving 116 miles an hour. Autopilot won't go that fast. Why is this even mentioned? They're just throwing it. They're just throwing in stuff to try to throw shade on Tesla. Now here's where we get to the part that I wanted to make sure people understand. The jurors recommended an award of $6 million to the mother and $4.5 million to the father, $10.5 million total in damages. And the apportionment of responsibility means Tesla will only be liable for $105,000. This is a total of $10.5 million. 1% of $10.5 million is $105,000. The attorney told the South Florida Sun-Sentinel that it would be only $105,000. Now, there's this concept called joint and several liability. This is what you get for me being a lawyer. As a lawyer, I'm familiar with the concept of joint and several liability. In some states, what joint and several liability means is if Tesla's in for 1% and it's a $10.5 million verdict, and the other side, let's say the insurance for the car or whoever, I don't know that there is anybody else you can sue for this, only has, let's say they have a $100,000 insurance policy, Tesla would be responsible for $10.4 million. Because joint and several liability means, you know, basically the family would come after Tesla for the whole amount, and Tesla would be able to try to get, you know, the 1%, whatever else they could get from somebody else. But if there's no insurance out there, the other people file bankruptcy, then big companies in these situations are often sued to try to establish a deep pocket and try to get some more money. Florida eliminated mostly joint and several liability. This is a Florida bar article from 2006. Basically, you're only held responsible for your share. So if you're found 1% in, then you're only held responsible for 1% of the amount. So the family's responsible for, you know, I guess the mom can collect 9% against the dad, which is kind of dumb, like suing within the family that's not really favored. A lot of judges don't like that. A lot of courts don't like that. So ultimately they're going to get $105,000 from Tesla. If the jury's verdict isn't overturned by the judge on a post-trial motion, you know, I think Tesla feels bad about the kid dying, right? They added the ability to limit your car's speed in the app, and they attributed it to the memory of Barrett Riley. So Tesla, you know, certainly feels bad about this kid's death. They don't want anybody to die. Nobody wants someone to die, and they died in a Tesla. So I think Tesla feels bad about it in that sense. But anyway, this joint and several liability is an important concept. There are states where if Tesla's in for 1%, they might have to pay the whole amount or close to the whole amount. And Florida, one of the positive things about Florida, and it's not really fair, right, to make a big company pay $10 million when they're only responsible for $100,000, if they're responsible at all. And you end up with this sort of lottery mentality in some states where you can get a big chunk of money from a big company, even if the big company has done very little or nothing wrong. So that's it. Please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Let's be less wrong. Florida was less wrong in eliminating the joint and several liability, protecting Tesla and big companies from these ridiculous verdicts. Please support this channel on the Locals platform, on Patreon, or as a YouTube channel member. Links to all that in the description below. Check out my other videos. Please like this video, recommend it to other people, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.